Hello and welcome to How to Combine STEM and PE with Unruly Splats. My name is Chris Amundson.
I'm Lauren Watkins from the Unruly team.
And we are going to walk you through just kind of a quick basic understanding of what Unruly Splats are and how they are used not only in PE, but they can be used throughout your entire school. So as I said before, my name is Chris Amundson. I'm the current past president of IAFERD. I'm also an elementary PE teacher, K through 6 in West Des Moines, Iowa. And I have been doing Splats since January, and I have loved every minute of playing with them because it's just something new, and it is something that allows my students to be creative. And the one thing I've really loved is that a lot of my students that don't seem to love PE like a lot of students do, they become super engaged because this is something that has really piqued their interest.
Awesome. It's so good to hear that. My name's Lauren. I'm the marketing lead here at Unruly. I've been here for about a year, and yeah, it's just great working with teachers from all across the country, from PE classes to STEM classes to even social studies classes and art classes and music classes. So it's really fun to see what our educators and what students do with Splats. And, you know, as you'll see, a lot of times, actually, it's the educators and students who come up with the super creative ideas. You know, we'll give a suggestion, and then they'll come back with, oh, what about this, 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 and this? And we're like, oh, we never thought about that. That's like a great idea. And then we help, you know, put that into practice. So, yeah, just love working with educators like you, Chris. It's been great.
Thank you. All right. So what you're going to need an iPad or a laptop with Chrome browser and internet access. Obviously, hopefully you have that already if you're on this presentation. Also, you're going to want an unruly attitude. Lauren, can you explain that a little more?
An unruly attitude means you're not afraid to make mistakes. You're ready to crush some bugs. You're excited to explore and have fun, and have fun with your kids is the best part.
Yeah, I agree. I like to tell my kids an unruly attitude is just being willing to try new things, being okay with failure, and also being willing just to have some fun and do something that's completely outside of our PE box that we usually do. So, so here we go. One thing that we're going to use a lot today is the Splats Web App. This is the app you would use to go in and create your coding and also kind of develop your games, save your games, do all those kinds of things. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on this here in a second. We're going to go through the process of how to get in here. You can use an iPad, you can use a laptop, you could use a Chromebook. My students are one-to-one Chromebooks, and so that's what they use generally. When we start talking more about the actual physical Splats, which I will show you here in a second, one thing, Lauren, you said the best, a good thing you should have is, or at least the best you can get, is Bluetooth 4.2 would be your best one. That just allows better connectivity and a little more range with your actual physical Splats that I'll be showing you here in a second.
With the iPad app as well, you don't need to use the web, that link right there. So with the iPad app, all you do is go to the App Store and search in Unruly Splats. And then we have an app that's specifically for iPads, and you don't actually need internet access to use it. So you can use it offline with the iPads. But of course, with the Chromebooks or laptops, you'll use our web app, which is the one that's linked right here, and that one you will need internet for. And the Bluetooth is necessary for the physical Splats, but if you're using our virtual Splats, which we'll go through at the end of this presentation, then you don't need Bluetooth at all.
Correct. All right. All right, this is an actual physical Splat. When you turn it on, it starts off like this with a lot of sound, and when you connect it, it does that. Why do I care about using coding in PE? Well, coding has become such a huge deal and has become such a important thing that we as educators need to be promoting to our students, not only because it is vital for a lot of professions, not only ones that we have now, but ones that are coming up. but also it's just something that is going to help fuel some things like creativity in your students. Coding is going to allow your students to work on things that and create things that we don't necessarily have a way of doing with our hands. We need to use a computer to do them. And so we'll be able to create awesome things, that games or just resources that our students can use in PE, or they can use it in the library or in STEM class or technology class or social studies, science, pretty much anywhere in the building. And so that's one thing. We want to work with that. So that's a big thing. Creativity is a huge deal here. And we have, as a lot of you know, we have a lot of students that don't necessarily love PE. And I have found that this has not only gotten them super engaged, but this has also really brought out that creative side that you see a lot of times with like art class or music class, and it has brought it to PE as well. And I have kids that generally try to avoid PE stuff as much as possible, and they have come in ready to go, loving these activities. So that's one thing. The second thing is teamwork. You can use Splats for a ton of different things. One of my favorite things to do is to do group projects with them, and it forces your students to work together as a team. Now, this obviously, as most of you know, is something you have to build up to. It's not going to work in a minute, but it is something that with practice, your students are going to have to do a great job with, and they will really take hold of this project, especially if you have some really strong leaders on each team. As I said, project-based. My building actually is a project-based school, and so we do a lot to try to promote projects and also promote inquiry within our students and within their groups. And so project-based learning has kind of taken hold in our building. It requires the students to ask questions that they have to go answer themselves, not just recall, where I stand in the front and give directions and they just have to memorize it and absorb it. This is where they are actually going to do the work. As I said earlier, cross-curricular. I have done multiple things where not only am I working on the projects in PE, I'm having teachers in the classroom help. I'm bouncing ideas off of our librarian, who is also our technology person. This is, if you have a STEM teacher in your building, this is a great thing to go back and forth with. And there's a ton of things you can use your students with. You could use it, you could have a timer in your class where students are just going back and forth and they're doing something, or they're doing a fun little activity in science or social studies or reading or whatever. And this can be their timer for the class, or something where it's physical as well. Because we all know that using your body and being physical is so important. It helps our brain, it helps our body, and it helps you learn. So it helps students get up. It's a great way of getting the kids up and moving without having to really get them sweaty and all the things that we like to do in PE. And the last one I kind of already talked about was student engagement. This gets students excited. It gets them to want to be there. It gets them to play. They want to play with it. They want to try things. They want to see, how does he get that sound to work? How does he get those lights to come up? How did he get that countdown to work so that it went off and there was crazy things that happened at the end? Kids are just inherently inquisitive. They want to know how to do things. And so this is a great tool to not only help promote PE, but also to get them to start thinking, get their minds working, and make them, they're going to want to work together, and they're going to want to bounce ideas off of each other to help them just try to get the coolest things they can. And that's kind of just human nature in general, not just with students. But I don't know about you guys, but I love to get a new technology and just play and try to figure things out. And so, so this is a great tool for all these different reasons. Lauren, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you covered all of it. I mean, I think with kids, the best part is that they get to see the results of it immediately. And so they're the ones making the rules. It's very empowering. And you know that, like, oh, if something's wrong, like, I'm just going to go look at my code. So they have the ability to control anything they want on the Splat. So that's really exciting.
Correct. All right. How to code. Let's go into the actual web app now, and we're going to go through it. I'm going to walk you through it. It's pretty simple. All right, so you come to this page, and you're going to come down and hit the play button down here at the bottom. And I love all the noises that come along with it. I have been on here before, so I'm going to sign out real quick. You're going to want to go on as an educator. And when you get here, you're going to want to put your school-based email. Whoops.
And so this is the same app that your students will use, and the only difference is that students would just press the student button, and it will not ask them for any information. So we don't collect student information at all.
So if you've never been on, you would go to create new profile. You would choose an avatar character to go with you, and you would put your name in. I have already done that. So I'm going to go in and pick Mr. A. And this is going to lead you right here to our grid where we're going to start building. A couple things. So right up here, these numbers at the top, they tell you how many splats you have connected. So if I want all 6, which you can have up to 6 per activity, if I pick all 6, it's going to bring me all 6. If I just want 1 for today, I'm going to bring it down to 1. It just depends on what you want. Now, if you come down to where the actual splat is, down here, you're going to see this plus sign next to the splat. This is where you would connect to the actual physical splat. This is one of the places you would connect to it. If your splat is on, which I'll turn mine on real quick, I can hit this plus, and it's going to look for mine, and I pair it up, and it's good to go. It now tells me that it's there and ready to go. You don't have to use those, though. You can just use it on here. Like, for example, if we're trying to create or develop something, we don't necessarily need to have a physical splat right at this second. We can start developing, and I can still press the splats and use them over here however I would like. Right over here, these different colored things, the starting, sensing, lights, all these are where your blocks are that you can start building your code. So when splat 1 is pressed, I'm going to go to, we're going to light it up green, and we'll see what happens. Let me come over here, and it turns green when I press on it, when I press on splat 1. Pretty simple. If I wanted to change to splat 2, I just go click on that when splat 1 is, and I change the 1 to a 2, and it lit up. I press splat 2, it lights up splat 1, as it says right here. Pretty simple. If I want to throw in some sound, I can come in here, play splat 1 sound. There's a bunch of sounds on here. One of my favorites. Now click right there, and it makes a great sound. In the sounds area, there's also a ton of other choices. And Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong on here, but on the iPad app, you can record sounds and use them. Like, I a lot of times like to use my own voice for students, and I'll throw them on there, and through the iPad, I will connect it. I don't know, that's not an option on the web app, though. Is that correct?
Not right now. Yes, that's a feature that only is on iPads only.
Correct. Scoring, you can go in and set score. So every time I press it, I'm going to get 1 point. So if I press 2, number 1 got a point. Light and sound went off. You've got all those things on. This is all the real basic stuff. There's a ton of other things, like you can control stopwatches, countdowns. You can add, if something happens, then this. There's different things involving math related in here. Creating variables, that's when we start getting much higher functioning code. So these are all different things that are easy just to play with. If you really want to go through something that is that helps you with this, if you come over here on this, it's where it says user tray, and you go down to the folder and open it up, you can come down to the tutorials, and there are some simple ones that you can run through here. So for example, the Splat Basics, I'm going to go ahead and load that, and it's going to walk you through the basics. Now, this for me was vital. I let the students kind of use them. I actually built put up games first, and we played games as a class or as small group or whatever. So they just got an idea. They got to touch the splats. They got to look at it. They got to hit the run button to run the code when it was their turn, all those things. But when I really wanted them to start getting into coding on their own, we started working on these. So one way I did it is for a few weeks in a row, every time they came in, they would bring their Chromebook in. We would go through one part of the tutorial. And that way, it didn't take a lot of time in PE, but it also got them ready for our big project that was coming down the road. The thing I did not show you is there's a bunch of different colors. There's also a random or an off, which comes in very important when you want it to shut off in the middle of a game for whatever reason, so the light doesn't stay on the entire game. I like to use random a lot just because the kids like to see all the different colors, and it's a good way to incorporate colors. Like if I'm doing an activity where a certain color matches up with a certain exercise, I like to put it on random so it comes up randomly, and we're all surprised by what is going on with that. Over here, a couple other things. There's some challenges. There's examples. There's some great games in here depending on how many splats you want to do. Lauren's going to talk a little bit about some of this stuff later. Oops, sorry. Also, same with saving and creating your own Unruly creations, like whatever you have to throw up there, you can put it up there. Pretty simple.
Chris,
Lauren?
like, how was it for you learning how to use this app, and had you ever learned to code before, or was this your first experience doing block-based coding?
So I had done some very, very basic coding. My daughters have an Osmo, and so that's where I have done the debate where you actually put physical blocks together to create the code. But that is really all I've had. Obviously, we didn't have this stuff when I was in elementary school way back when, and so this was a new thing to me. Again, I like to go in and play with stuff. And so I went through all the tutorials and kind of worked my way. I actually did the tutorials a couple times just to kind of wrap my brain around exactly what I was doing. The students picked it up way faster than me. Mm-hmm. A lot of my students actually do activities online where they code already. And so some of these kids were like, oh, yeah, I've done this before. This is easy. And so they went through and started whipping stuff together. And that's the thing with kids and technology. They're already way ahead of a lot of us old people. And so if we just let them play, they're going to be able to do some pretty awesome stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. And we hear that all the time from, especially the teachers who might not have as much experience with coding. Is, it is really easy to pick up, but students just take it and run with it. And you kind of have to be okay with that. And that's part of the unruly attitude that we were talking about.
Yep. Okay. Anything else you can think of to walk through? Oh, the run button. I did forget to mention that. This is very important because if I put like a timer or something if I go up to the starting block and put when program starts, it knows to start when you hit the run button and then the stop button. Pretty simple. This ID code comes in very handy for me as well, because if I have some splats laying around, I'm trying to figure out which one I put on number 1 or 2 or whatever. If I press on this, it tells me by lighting up what's what. So those are really important buttons that sometimes you take for granted until you really, really, really need them. How do you use it in PE? Now, I kind of mentioned how I started it. It's something you're going to want to work into. I think it's important that you kind of let them touch it and play with it and just kind of feel it and see what it is, because when you first pull it out and they see that it can make noise and it can change colors and it can do all these things, the first thing they want to do is touch it, especially younger kids. The little kids are going to be all about touching, which I know right now is a little iffy, but don't worry, you can clean them. Not that big of a deal. But then a good thing is you can do things where the students create their own stuff. You can do things where you do the whole class. You can do things where it's just small group or station work. And so I'm going to kind of go through and show you some examples of each of these right now. So the first one, small sided game. Another thing that's really awesome about these is you don't have to recreate everything. You can take a game or an activity you already do and just modify it and incorporate the splats. For example, this game is called a Pop-A-Shot game. I use this just during our basketball unit. Some of my students actually created this, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And it's so simple, but it's awesome for my students because it kind of gives them, not only the competitive kids, something to really focus on, but it also gives the kids a timer. It gives them just a way of celebrating when they score a basket in basketball. And so kind of like if you go to an arcade or Chuck E. Cheese or Dave and Buster's or something like that, and you play a Pop-A-Shot game where you're just shooting baskets and you have like a minute to make as many as you can, or 30 seconds or whatever it is, this is the same type of activity. So you're going to have a team. You can decide how big your teams want to be. Everybody's got a basket. Everybody has their own ball. You start it, and they start shooting baskets. If they make it, they run to the splat, they hit it. It's going to make a noise. It's going to light up. It's going to give their team a point. You're going to keep going for the allotted time. The splat's going to keep score, and it's going to run the time. It's going to do at the end, it's going to make a sound and a different color, which means time is up. And so everybody will know when the time is done. This is the coding for Pop-A-Shot and also a quick video of me doing it. The second way I used it was stations. Now, this game, I actually, with the work of Emily, who works at Unruly Splats, she's awesome, by the way, and she's great to work with and is willing to try to figure anything out that you need, as well as any of the people that work at Splats. They have been fantastic to work with. I asked Emily, because my students were creating a game and they wanted to do something kind of like musical chairs. So I asked Emily, is there any code that you could help us with? Because it's kind of complicated and a little complex. And she sent me something, and we took it and we adapted it for our own. As a lot of you guys probably agree, at the elementary level, elimination games aren't necessarily the best thing for our students. We want them to be active as much as possible. We don't want someone to have to go sit against the wall, anything like that. So we took it and we changed it from an elimination game. We changed it to a fitness game. And what we did is we made the colors random. We made them all light up at the end. So you can play music. They're going to be moving around the splats. When the time is up and the time is set at random, all the splats are going to make a different color. Now, in my gym, I have a projector with a screen, and it put up each color matched a specific exercise. And so they would do 10 of that specific exercise. We'd hit it and they'd go again. And this would be a station they used if we were doing, or a center that we would be using for like 2-3 minutes. This is the coding for fitness musical splats and also a video of my family doing it. next thing we did is I love doing things where it involves the whole class. And so this I used actually, I didn't use it as a main focus game. I used this as a quick start game. So when they come in the gym, we went straight into four corners. So I have a splat in each corner of the gym. The students are going to choose which one they go into. I'm not going to tell them where to go. They get to pick whichever one they want to go to. I hit the button. They're all going to light up, and one of them is going to shut off. That means that group won. Now, this is different than how a lot of people play four corners, but as I talked about earlier, I'm kind of anti-elimination games at the elementary level. So the one that shut off means they win. So their winning is they're going to get more points. Now, in my gym, however many exercises they do is a point. So if their team won, they might get 10 jumping jacks. So that once they complete it, they got 10 points. And each person is going to keep track of their own points. Once everyone is completed, so the other three corners are going to do 5 or whatever you choose to do, 5 jumping jacks. Once their exercise is done, they're going to move to another splat, and we'll do this for a few minutes just as kind of like a warm-up, just kind of get them, because most of the time students have been sitting before they come to me, and we want to get their heart rate up. We want to get them moving right away so we can get right into the game and get them going right away, because my classes are only 30 minutes, and I got to use every minute as efficiently as possible. So
I love this one because, I mean, it just shows the flexibility that comes with Splats. So, you took the rules of a game and you didn't change any of the code, but you changed the rules of what they do. And that's totally okay. We have, a race in place game where, traditionally you're racing in place on your feet, but we've had PE teachers who go, okay, I want you to be crab walking, or I want, one student presses the other one and you press this one. So you can make it whatever you want to. And that's the fun part.
this is the coding for 4 corners and my family playing the game. All right, choose a new one. Oh, player 1 shut off. They get 10. So they do 5. All right, when you're done, pick a new one. Player 2, over there. You guys do 5. The last one that I used, and this was the big one, I do an entire unit for this, and this is our group project. And what we did was create a game. And I've done create a game in the past and had a lot of fun with it, and I still to this day use some of the games that my students created. This year we incorporated the Splats, and it got them super jacked to come to PE. They were working on it. I was told by a teacher that a few of her students got in trouble because they were working on coding when they were supposed to be doing something else. So just so you know, warn your teachers ahead of time. They might get a little too excited about it. Students can create a new game, or as we talked about with the Pop-A-Shot, they can modify something you already use. And they just the only rule I had them have is they had to use a splat. I did this unit for 3 weeks, so it was a lot of time. The classroom teachers were fantastic, and they allowed them, whether it was time where they were kind of like a study hall or some extra time in the class, they got to work on their coding. The teacher actually set aside it so if they had time to work on math or their reading, if there was some extra time at the end, he or she, depending on which teacher was, allowed them to work on their coding during that time as well, and it became a school-wide thing and not just a PE thing. I did this with 4th through 6th graders, and what they did was I broke them up into small groups. again, they created I had some students make some fantastic original games. I also had some students make some fantastic modifications of games we already used. Both were perfectly fine with me. And you've seen some of them, and I'm going to use some of them in the future as well because they were so good. At the end of the 3 weeks, the students got up in front of the rest of the class and they did a presentation where they introduced the game, they taught the rules, they had slides on our projector, they went through all that, and then we would spend the rest of the class playing the game. And so sometimes we would find bugs during the playing of the game, and it was so fun to see the rest of the students, not just in the group, the rest of the students saying, "Can I see your code?" And they would look through it and they'd be like, "Oh, this has to change to that." And it was teamwork, even though they weren't even really on the same team. They were helping each other to correct things because they wanted it to be successful as well. And I had some students that didn't necessarily want to play the game. They were more interested in the code, but once we got going, everybody got in the game and they had a lot of fun. One thing that I struggled with when I first found out about these was, okay, how can I afford these? Now, as a lot of you are, as I am, our budgets aren't necessarily the most for PE. And so we need to look at outside ways of doing that. So one thing I did is I started talking to community members about it. And for myself, I talked to our local Elks Lodge. They were looking at ways, actually I got lucky because they were looking at ways of getting more involved in STEM and STEAM in schools. And they wanted to find ways that they could help with this. So I went and presented to my local Elks Lodge, and they didn't know what coding was, and they didn't know much about STEM. They just heard it was something that needs to be done more in schools. And so I talked to them about it, kind of help explain exactly what these would be used for. We walked through the Unruly Splats website so they could see kind of what was going on. They saw some examples, and they right away were on board. You just have to talk to people, and you have to go and present yourself to them and kind of give them your ideas. I welcomed them into my gym. They could come and hang out. They could come and watch and try stuff out with us, and some of them did. And the kids sent them letters thanking them. It was an awesome process, and they're just part of the community, and they wanted to help schools any way they could. So that was a great way of getting them involved. The second thing is grants. There are a lot of grants out there, and there's a lot of grants that don't get used. So look at your local state PE teacher association. Like for us, IAFERD, we have grants every year, and we don't tend to get a lot of applicants. So that's one thing is if you've been a member, put in your application for grants. That goes for anywhere. There are grants out there that are STEM grants. There are grants that are there are corporations looking to give money away because it helps with their taxes and things like that. So look for those grants. There's tons of things. Along those same lines, I did Donors Choose. I put it out there, and I was shocked at how quickly I got help to fully fund my project. They were all about jumping on people from all across the country. There were anonymous people giving me like $1,000 just to throw up toward this stuff. And it was pretty humbling to see that there were people all across the country that were willing to just help a elementary PE teacher in the middle of Iowa. And it was a fantastic process to go through. So I checked that out too. Something a lot of us don't think about is our own district. Our district has money set aside for projects that might work, especially if they're related to things like science and STEM and engineering and coding and things like that are big. I know in Iowa there's been a very big push for coding in schools and more STEM in schools. And so I know a lot of states have done that. And so look at your district and see what initiatives they have going on there. There might be grants that you don't know about because you're not a science teacher or a STEM teacher. Talk to your people in your building, talk to your principal, if you have a curriculum director, talk to all of them about ways, if there's anything you can get their help with to help get some funding for that. And Lauren and I came up with another great one, advocate. advocate for yourself. Talk to your district. Say, I want to do this. I want to do cross-curricular stuff. I want to work with our school. This isn't just PE. This is an entire school-wide thing. It involves STEM. It involves coding. It involves movement. There's math involved. There's tons of stuff involved in this that really makes your program look attractive. And it really makes the district stop and think, hey, this is something we can really do, and we can use it throughout our district. We can really use it when we're talking about science and STEM and just all those buzzwords that are really, really big. And it's just advocate for yourself in general for anything. But this is a great way to get funding to help you fund this for your program.
Yay. So wanted to show you guys our Unruly Gorilla. His name's Crash. We've used Crash for a number of our virtual activities that we've been working on, as I'm sure you guys have all experienced in the summertime, having to kind of adjust your programming for virtual learning. So I'm going to show you a few games that are perfect for movement at home, or coding at home and movement at the school if you guys are doing a hybrid model come September. So here we go. Okay, so Chris did an awesome job giving us a tour of the web app, so I won't go through much, but I just did want to explain this basic code here. So on the left-hand side, this is our function, and this is really just a way for us to package our code. So you'll notice that this one is count from 10, and then this, which is our actual program here, when program starts, we have the countdown from 10 here. So I'm going to show you what happens. So when the program starts, which is when we press run, it's going to light the splat a random color. And just like Chris was describing, each color can be a different exercise. So if you have that out on the board, or if you give that to them at home, then they'll know. Then we'll hear the rough whistle, and it'll start to count down from 10. So maybe they'll do, jumping jacks for 10 seconds. Then once it's done, it's going to delay, because that's in our function here at the bottom, delay for 3 seconds. It'll blow another whistle, another delay, and then it's going to start again, and it's going to repeat 4 times. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like once.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9.
There we go. And then you can just press stop. So this is a pretty basic function here. I can even show you real quick what that looks like. So I've created this function, but this is our blank function. So I can drag this out and say I want to do count from 5. What I can do is have that label there, count from 5. And then I can, fun trick, if you right click, you can duplicate blocks. And then I want to delay between each one. So then I can do that, and then duplicate this to be 4, duplicate this, and that's how you would do it. So just to kind of show you how you would actually create that. And then what happens is, now that I go into my functions, I have a count from 5 function, so I would be able to drag that into here.
And that duplicating is a lifesaver when you're building, especially something a little more complex, and it definitely helps a lot.
Absolutely. It is definitely a lifesaver when something gets really long, like this one. So I'm going to throw this out. This is how you completely just remove something. There's a trash can right there. Another fun trick is the disable. So if I wanted to go like this and disable this block, nothing happens. So if I was to press run, nothing's happening now because my program is disabled. So I'm going to show you the next project over here, which is disabled as well. So I'm going to undisable that. And what this says here is this is a stopwatch. So this would be for a game like how many jumping jacks can you do in 10 seconds or 30 seconds? How fast can you run from one end of the house to the next? So in our code, it says when splat 1 is pressed, it's going to play the ref whistle. It's going to start the stopwatch. And then while the stopwatch is less than 30, but not 0, the splat is going to fade. All of the splats will fade a different color, a random color for every 0.2 seconds. And then when splat 2 is pressed, so if you're, pressing splat 1 to start and then pressing splat 2 to say, okay, I'm back, then we'll hear another ref whistle. It'll stop the stopwatch, and then it will cheer. So let's see what that looks like. Ooh. And I'm going to press splat 2 now. And so you can change this stopwatch to, this could be 5 seconds. So let's see what happens there. And say I don't make it back in 5 seconds. What happens? We hear a clap instead. So the next thing that we can do, I'm going to go back and I'm going to bring over our countdown. And I'm just bringing it over here so you can see it, but you don't actually need to bring it over beside it as long as it's enabled. And I'm going to enable this block as well. So what this will do is say you want to do a kind of a combination of both a stopwatch and a countdown. So say you wanted to count down from 10, when you press spot 2, just to warn them they have 10 seconds left, you can do that too. So we're going to change this back to 30 seconds. So let's see what happens. All right.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
You kind of get the idea. And the fun part is you can make the rules to be whatever you want. You could change this to be green. You could change this to be any color. You can change the sounds. You can even change the delays. So whatever you want to do with it, you can create your own rules, but this is just sort of a fun way to work in countdowns as well as timers into your activities so that your students have the flexibility to either do them from home or code them from home and play them at school. So
something to add to that, Lauren, talking about changing stuff, something that I haven't really worked on yet, but I kind of want to play with it a little bit. On the actual physical splats, you can make it so that different LEDs turn different colors, and so you can get real into it and do kind of crazy colors and mixtures of things on there. And I think I'm going to start playing with that soon, just to really get some crazy stuff going.
Yeah, I'll show you really quick what that looks like. Let's see, pink. So let me press splat 3. I'm going to take the countdown out because that's a little annoying.
Sweet. So you can see the different ones up at the pink and the green up on splat 1. Exactly.
And so if we wanted to press splat 3 and have it do that on splat 3, we would just change that number there and it would be on splat 3.
Perfect.
Awesome. And I'll just show you also what our fitness activities look like. So every activity that you can do from home, usually we try and write it so that we're speaking to students, because we know that these are the activities that you're going to be giving to your students. So these are totally able to be independently worked on by your students. Each one will have a YouTube video that goes with it. And then we also created a logbook so that students can keep track of, say, how many push-ups they can do in 10 seconds this week versus 3 weeks from now. I know myself, I haven't had much improvement at home with my workouts, but if they're consistent, then I'm sure they will.
That's good for goal setting.
Yes. And so at the beginning of each activity, it'll just run through what blocks are being used. So this is nice too, so that they have an idea and then they can start thinking about, okay, I know I have to use all these blocks. How are they all going to fit together? And so, if they want to make it challenging for themselves, hopefully not necessarily looking at the code key, which is coming up next, but thinking about how are they going to use those blocks and what are the rules, because the rules for the game are the rules for the code. And that's basically the number one rule when coding with Splats is that just think about what do I want to happen, and then figuring out the rules and writing them down and then actually building the code. So I just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek. This activity pack is fitness focused. It's not released yet, but you guys are the first ones who get to see it, so exciting. And I'm gonna go back here. And just talk really quickly about our memberships. So the way that Splats work is through a membership program. So we have a 1-year and a 3-year membership. And the reason that is because when we talked with our educators and principals, they were really frustrated that a lot of technology in school was going unused, either because it was sitting broken in a closet and it wasn't under warranty, or the teachers didn't have the support to be able to use it properly in the school. And so sort of our model is that we want it used as a full school tool. So you can use it in the classroom, you can use it in the library, in PE. And this is a great way to get cross-curricular collaboration between both teachers and students. And we're basically there to support you with unlimited kind of coaching and training along the way without any additional charges. So that's sort of how our memberships work. And what they include: warranty. So as Chris mentioned, Splats are pretty durable, but if they break, then you don't have to worry about it. We will replace it, no questions asked. We'll pay for shipping both ways, so you don't have to worry about it. And another cool thing is that we have data that we'll share with you on how many stomps on Splats, as well as how many lines of code were created. And this is something that you can pass on to your administration, your principal, or even the district level as a way to advocate. So, okay, we're using this, this is something that we need. I mentioned the ongoing coaching. So Emily, which Chris mentioned, she's our education director. She works with every teacher in the school. So you don't need to have a plan for each teacher. One plan covers the entire school and anybody is included. So we will give you training. And if you come back to us 3 months after you get your Splats and you're like, I've got this idea, but I don't actually know how to implement it, or, I need some help with this, we will hop on a call with you and help you, no problem. So there's unlimited seats for teachers and students. And of course, our plans come with Splats. So the basic plan comes with 12 Splats, and you can add Splats to your plan in sets of 2. So right now we've got a summer special. That's my email down there at the bottom. If you email me for a quote before July 15th, we'll give you $200 off our school plans. So usually the 1 year is $1,200. So we'll do that for $1,000. And then our 3-year plan is $3,000. And one thing to note is with our 3-year plan, you do get to keep the Splats at the end of the 3 years as well. And that's all. Anything I missed, Chris?
What's your website so that they could go and check out everything on there?
Yes, absolutely. It is Unruly, like our name, Splats.com. UnrulySplats.com. And if you just Google Unruly Splats, it should be the first one that comes up as well. And I will say as well, with our memberships, we do have a ton of content that we come out with, lesson plans and activities every month. So there's definitely no shortage of things to do if you're, prefer to have things already set out and laid out in a lesson plan format.
Correct.
Great.
Awesome. I just want to say I'm thank you for coming, and both Lauren and all of you, thank you for coming and helping talk about Splats and coding in schools, especially in PE. I really obviously have a bit of a passion for it and have fallen in love with it. And I hope any of you that are interested, go ahead, feel free to reach out to either of us, ask questions. If you want to talk to me about how I use it in school and all that stuff, I'm more than happy. If you just want to, if you already have them and want to run ideas by me and get some thoughts or see if I have anything else to share with you, I'm more than happy. Like we talked about, Emily is always there too if you become a member. But this is a fantastic product, and I hope you can jump on and enjoy it as much as I do.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's awesome to be here with you, and I love hearing your stories and looking at the games that you've made with your kids. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, my email is lauren@unruly-studios.com, and our email is unrulySplats.com.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.